Hello, welcome to another edition of the Pace Report. I'm Brian Pace. Pianist, composer, band leader, and arranger Sullivan Fortner has been a tour de force on the jazz scene for well over 2 decades. This New Orleans native has brought the tradition of Black American music forward by encompassing both classical as well as R&B as well as jazz into different types of musics that he has accompanied over the last 2 decades, whether it be with Cecile McLorin Salvant to Jazzmeia horn or the late Roy Hargrove. Now tonight here on the Pace Report, I had the honor of shooting a duo with one of his former classmates as well as former band member when these two guys played with the great Billy Hart, bassist Marcos Varela. Now these two paired up at the Soapbox Gallery in Brooklyn, New York, and these two created some very beautiful, important, magical moments which I've captured here on the Pace Report. And I had a chance to sit down with Sullivan to talk about the music that he's made with Cecile as well as the great Jazzmeia horn, also his role as a pianist, and we also sit down and dissect and talk about the great Dr. Barry Harris, who was a great mentor to him. so many fronts. And the first one is I interviewed a dynamic talent who I covered from the beginning, just like you, Jazzmeia Horn. And you were her music arranger, and you helped co-produce. You helped her with this project, this big band project. And your success with her, and now Cecile, right now as a musician, how do you feel in these roles now? Because everybody's coming you to do everything. Write arrangements, accompany, you got to lead your own group, you're doing, I mean, how do you feel about this?
I feel grateful. I feel tired. I'm not gonna lie, I'm tired. But ultimately, I'm just really honored that people think of me in that way. You know, I'm just a piano player from New Orleans who's just trying to learn how to play this music. You know, and I've been blessed to, you know, have a lot of great teachers and be friends with those people, and they just give me a try. It's like, Sullivan, you want to just play some stuff around the house? It's like, okay, cool. And then that grows into a gig, and then that grows into a record, and then that, you know. And you know, with Jazzmeia, same thing. I met her at my recital at the Jazz Gallery when I graduated from Manhattan School. She came to my show, and I met her there. And then she's like, "Oh, why don't you play with me?" It was like I played a couple of things with her, just like offhand, just around the house, and then that grew into like a relationship, a friendship that lasted for a minute. And one day she called me. She was like, "I'm doing a big band record. I want you to produce, like help me musical direct, because I had done some stuff with the Baylor Project." And she was at the recording session for the last record, and I made a few pointers or said something, and she was like, "I want you to help me with my record." I was like, "Okay, sure." And then there it is.
You know, everything you touch has become gold. I mean, the Baylor Project, and then, you know, Cecile, she brings a very unique voice. In fact, the last time I saw you guys was at BAM last fall. Mm-hmm. That been a minute since I've seen you guys. What is it that you're bringing to Cecile, and what is Cecile bringing to you as this partnership goes musically?
Ooh, get me in trouble. No, I think the thing that we both allow each other is just the freedom to be ourselves. You know, I never tell anybody what to do. I never tell Cecile what to do, and she never tells me what to do. And I guess I got that from, you know, being in Roy Hargrove's band for 7 years. He just let me do whatever it was that I wanted to do. He showed me the songs, and after that, he just watched me struggle through it, or watch me just create on top of it, or watch me do whatever. And, you know, allowing that freedom taught me to do the same with whoever I play with, whether it be my trio or duo scenarios with singers or bass players or whoever, you know. Just allow people the freedom to be themselves. And then what you do for them is that you enhance, you know, their own individuality, or you try to anyway.
Right.
And Cecile, in turn, definitely does that for me. I mean, she has a way of dressing a song up to a point where you can't do anything but enhance, you know what I mean? And then with that, she also allows, there's a space in how she sings that allows you to kind of play around and be free and be yourself and interpret how you want to interpret.
playing in a duo setting, how is it playing in a trio versus a quartet? Is it more intimate, or do you have the freedom to think as you're playing?
I find it more intimate. That's why I wanted to do this. And since, you know, Sullivan, he plays with so many textures, and it's like playing with a bunch of instruments at once. So he kind of fills those places of percussion and, you know, other things. And he uses the instrument to its percussive ability. So playing duo, it's a breeze, man. You make it easy on me. And we go way back. We played with when we first got out of college. We worked with the great Billy Hart together. We were in a young band of Billies together with Theo Croker, Sullivan, Irwin Hall. I don't know if you know Irwin, but we all kind of came up together. And you know, when this opportunity came up, I was like, man, you want to play, man? It's been a minute, you know. And we've all had kind of different career paths, but this was actually a blessing that we was able to do it. And we always have a great time hanging and making music. It's just projects more of the same. So this is my old friend, man. We're actually not far from each other. I grew up in Houston, and he grew up in New Orleans, so it's kind of a similar culture and vibe. You know, especially, you know, Houston. Growing up, it had a strong Cajun community, and you know, it was the same. Just drove on I-10. It was like, you know, went down. Those were the first jazz city I went to. You know, was New Orleans. So there's definitely a strong connection there, and there's something about being from that area, like you kind of hang out the same way, you know. Like when we hang out, it's like, oh man, this feels like home, you know. So yeah.
You know, I was at the homegoing services for Dr. Barry Harris, and I know on your last album you thought a lot about Dr. Harris.
Oh yeah.
And you took some classes with him. He mentored you. Give me your reflections of Dr. Harris as an instructor and as a mentor, but also what he means to jazz music now that he's gone.
Barry, to me, was like one of the last links. You know what I mean? I mean, you talk about somebody that lived with Thelonious Monk. You know what I'm saying?
Who played his piano.
I actually got to play this piano. I went to his house for the Super Bowl. I think it was 2018. I think it was either 2018 or 2019. Me and another singer, Joy Brown, went to Barry's house and watched the Super Bowl. And me and him, I sat at the piano while it was playing the commercials, and then he got up and stumbled over and he went to the other piano, and then he started playing, and he taught me a song, and he was like, nah, that ain't right, dude, it's like this. I said, that's better, that's right, and I play this. You know what I mean? He was one of those people that taught the way that I learned kind of in church in a way, where it was kind of like, it was very oral. You know, somebody would sing something, you learned it by them singing it, or you learn it by the playing it. And it would be like, sometimes it would be a head gesture, sometimes it would be words, sometimes it'll be like the way that they move, or the way that they, you know. For him, it was all about how he would play something and he'd be like, no, he was very verbal. He would say exactly what he felt. If he liked it, he said it was great. If he hated it, he thought it sucked, and he would let you know that it sucked. But one of the last teachers in that way of teaching, so to speak, what he meant to me, I'll tell you a story, man. It's funny. I was just listening to Charlie Parker play Coco today, and this was back in 2012, 2013. I was arguing with a friend of mine, Rodney Kendrick, about why I should go and study with Barry. He said, you need to go and you need to study with Barry Harris. I was like, well, I just finished school. I just graduated from Manhattan School, and I got my degrees and all of this. I'm playing with Roy. When am I going to have time? He said, nigga, make time. So I was like, okay, before I do, he was like, because you don't hear Charlie Parker. I was like, what do you mean I don't hear Charlie Parker? I've been listening to Charlie Parker since I was in high school. And I said, one day as an exercise, it's right before the Chicago Festival. I said, I'm going to play Coco by Charlie Parker for 24 hours straight. And I know I'm going to have to play Cherokee or something like it in Roy's set later on that day. So I'm playing it and I'm listening to it and, you know, playing through it and listening to it in my mind. I fall asleep listening to it, wake up, and then I go and play the gig and play it, whatever. Come back to the hotel that evening and listen to the first 8 bars of my song, and I started crying. And that was how hard it hit me, because I realized at that moment that what I thought I knew, I didn't know.
Right.
And it was the first time I heard Charlie Parker. And Rodney told me after, when I called him and said, "Now will you go to Barry?" I said, "Yes, I will go." And I went every Tuesday that I was in town up until the pandemic. So from 2013 up until 2020, I was in that man's class. And every day he would drop like one little nugget that would like last me a lifetime. And
what he said was final.
It was final. There was no argument.
It's like the times I broke bread with him, it was like he would tell you these stories.
Yeah.
And you're like, damn.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. It was no argument.
Old school.
Yeah, it was no argument. And it was funny because Rodney told me, he said, when you go in the presence of a master, leave what you know at the door. You don't know anything. You leave what you know at the door, and you come in and you be a student and you bow before that. That's the only way you're going to learn. So I went to him completely clean and just like ready, just like that sponge, just fill me up, Lord. Right. And he surprisingly, he was really nice to me, and he was very honest. One time he was like, somebody called a song in a weird key. He's like, and you better play it good too.
That sound like him.
Yeah.
That sound like him.
Mm-hmm.
when you were studying, Jason Moran purposely took you to see Cecil Taylor. God rest his soul.
Yeah.
Now, we know about Cecil and his playing and his theory of playing the concept of 88 keys. Did you see something differently when he played? Did it change the conduit of how you were originally trained, or did you just was like Dr. Barry Harris, everything went out the window?
Well, I think one of the things that really flipped me out about Cecil Taylor was when I went to see him at the Vanguard. He was backstage after this thing was over, and I just walked up to the piano and asked sheet music.
What?
Yeah, and it was like there was like charts was written out, and it was like, but it wasn't like in a traditional way. There was like some instructions going along with the melodies, but they were like melodies that were actually written out on staff paper, and it flipped me out because I thought that mess was free. Say, but it's not as free as you think it is. You know what I mean? There's a certain type of thread and continuity that's there that you can trace back to like a Bud Powell or Thelonious. You know what I mean? Because he's really drawing from that material, and it kind of made studying with Barry. It's like that, but like on the opposite end of it.
Right.
And Sunrise, another example of somebody like that that's coming directly from that lineage, but flipped it around in a weird way. Randy Weston, seeing him many times. It's the same language. You know, you think about somebody like Nat King Cole and Duke Ellington, and you know, all of those people. You hear that in Cecil. You hear that in Randy. You hear that in Sunrise. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It's all there. You know.
Right. And I think what's missing now in jazz, especially the younger generation, I believe that they're more focused on trying to make a name for themselves instead of developing their styles. There's some validity to that.
Do whatever you want.
Yeah, you can do whatever you want. I think that the music's always been in a state of like trying to move forward, and it's always been like there's always this sense of abandonment and rebellion with it. So,
but that's what avant-garde is all about.
That's what the whole avant-garde thing is all about. And I think the older people get, the more their taste change, and the more they start to hear kind of connections, the more they want to trace back. I mean, I know for me, when I was at Oberlin, nobody couldn't tell me that there was any other jazz piano player other than Keith Jarrett. There was no other piano player other than Keith. You know what I mean? And you know, as things happen and you start to get different calls to play with different people, and people start to draw different things out of you. You know what I mean? Time and experiences teach you. Playing with different musicians that be like, don't play like that. It's not the gig. I remember playing with Stefan Harris, and I was playing all of this dense harmony and going all over the place, and Stefan was like, look, man. You gotta play in this sound. I understand that you're in school and you're investigating all of these sounds, but we're a band. And you have to play from the material that we're dealing with. And then from there, then you stretch it, and then you expand it, and then you massage it, but don't force feed us with things. You know? And so I think that with younger musicians, all the younger musicians that I know are really just trying to take the things that they're learning in school and apply it to the situations that they're in, not realizing that 80 to 90% of the things that they're learning in school they won't need on a gig per se.
Right.
You know what I mean? And then so trying to decipher what's meat and what's fat. You know what I mean? And then as time wears on, you just start to taper. I mean, I'm still tapering off fat stuff that I learned at school, or things that I wouldn't necessarily say it's fat, but I'll say I'm just still trying to wean off certain things that I don't need for the time being. Maybe I'll pick it up later. You know what I mean?
As a leader,
or playing in a different musical scenario, like studying with Dave Liebman. You know. That was interesting because there's nobody else writing music with those using those type of harmonies or that type of harmonic language. You know what I mean? There's not many other musicians doing that.
Well, Dave was thrown in the fire with that fusion.
You understand?
Fusion. That was it. You know,
exactly.
and there were flavors and textures that those musicians that would bring him, especially the stuff he did with Miles. And you've gone the whole gamut, man. I mean, Cecile told me something when I first interviewed her, when she first broke out, and I actually see this with the way she's at right now.
Mm-hmm.
She said she wanted to do a modern version of Porgy and Bess.
She still talks about that.
But you're laughing, but guess what?
Yeah.
It's time to do a revision of that.
Hey.
They did it. See, Spielberg did it with West Side Story.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing I like about the new version of West Side Story, one, it was very sincere to the Latino community,
Mm-hmm.
the Puerto Rican community,
Mm-hmm.
whereas the original was a little bit racist.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know,
I see.
Rita Moreno told me
Oh my gosh.
many stories about how, you know, she had to force them to rewrite certain lyrics to the original song, because in Porgy and Bess, looking at it now, it's very stereotypical and very racist. But now, you guys are young enough to bring a new voice to that.
I mean, yeah, I'd be down. I'd be down to be a part of it.
And she said, guess who she would like to do it with? She said that, I remember she said
Who would
that
you like to do it?
it's a no-brainer.
Who that?
Gregory Porter.
Oh my gosh. Oh man. Oh man.
But see, if you do it, it would have to be a soulful version
Oh,
of
man.
Porgy and Bess.
Heck
It
yeah.
couldn't be the Tin Pan Alley, the
No.
Broadway.
No.
We'd have to bring it, what Isaac Hayes said, bring it on down to Soulsville with that.
Oh my god. Oh my god.
How would you arrange that?
How would I arrange it?
Because you've
I
done
don't want to
arrangements.
arrange that.
Yes, you do.
That's too much. Let's see. Yeah, I mean. Oh.
And you have to put a little hip hop in that too.
Oh man.
You would have to put gospel, hip hop,
Of course. Oh man. I
trap. You would have to put a little bit of that. It would be funky.
I would put it all in there. I wouldn't change. I would just add to the orchestration that's already there. I mean, the strings, that stuff is. It's incredible. I mean, the music of the original score, the music is incredible. But maybe I would just re-instrumentize. You know, maybe assign an organ to like Hammond organ to like My Man's Gone.
Yeah.
That'd be kind of killing in the funeral scene
And you know,
gone.
yeah. And you know who else would be funky for that too? Andre from Outkast.
Oh man, playing Sporting Life?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. As a leader, Sullivan, you're bringing your own voice and your own music to what you conceive as music. How do you conceive music now? Because I remember you from Roy Hargrove and stuff. I've been with you from the very beginning of all of this. Now, how do you see music differently now?
I'm learning now that it's not important to label what it is that you do. I've heard people say that, but now I'm starting to understand that. And I think the minute that the artist labels what it is that they do is the minute that they kill it. I think that it's important to be accepting of everything. I mean, there's the old age argument. Should jazz musicians only play originals? Should they play music of the times? Should they play standards? Should they, play classical music? Should they play all genres? I say, yeah, we should be able, if we're musicians, we should be able to access anything at any time. And to be able to, to play it and to be able to tell stories with it. Because it's one thing to be able to articulate it on the instrument, to be able to play it, but it's another thing to be able to bring people into it with a story.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so I think that music now and the musician now is required to, the music is calling the musician to be more eclectic and to think broader, than just jazz or just classical or just bebop or just free or just Latin or just, modern or whatever. It's all modern because it's now. Everything's now.
The jazz used to be like that.
That's how
and that's what happened in the mid 60s and early 70s.
I mean, that's what they left us.
Yeah.
That's what those people, that's what Charlie Parker left us. You know what I mean? That's what Dizzy and Duke and them, they left us. That opportunity to say, okay, this is the music that's now. This is what we stand on. This is the information that we're given. Now let's create something that's now. Let's be now. Let's not try to recreate something that's happened already. Let's not get too far ahead that we lose ourselves. Because that's definitely possible when musicians try to think too far to the future that they get lost in the present.
Right.
It's important to just be in the moment. I had a teacher, Clyde Kerr Jr. He said, man, just always be in the now. He told me that before he died. He said, Sullivan, just always be in the now. Always be in the now.
That'll do it again for another edition of the Bass Report. I'd like to personally thank and congratulate the incomparable Sullivan Fortner as well as Marcos Varela for their time. Also, I'd like to thank Mr. Jimmy Greenfield and his wonderful staff at the Soapbox Gallery in Brooklyn. Make sure you guys support Jimmy and the Soapbox Gallery for the upcoming web streams as well as live performances. For more information, visit them online at soapboxgallery.org. People, I can't stress this more than enough. Please like, share, and subscribe to my videos here on YouTube and video, as well as visit my website, thepacereport.com, for my weekly column, as well as my past segments. Until next time, remember, if it's in the groove, it'll make you move. Until next time, peace.